Welcome, story lovers, to A Tale You Think You Know. Tonight we journey into the shadows of one of the most famous European folk tales, first collected by the brothers Grimm in the early 1800s. Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm were brilliant scholars who devoted their lives to saving these ancient stories from being forgotten. This particular story about a brother and sister lost in the woods speaks to something deep within us. Our courage, our fear, and the mysterious pull of the forest, a place where danger and magic so often walk hand in hand. This is Hansel and Gretel, but not as you remember it. Welcome to our first episode, The Night the Forest Started Whispering. At the edge of a deep, ancient forest, in a cottage that seemed to shrink with every passing year, lived two siblings. There was Hansel, clever and always watchful, his mind as sharp as a newly honed axe. And there was Gretel, brave and imaginative, whose heart simply refused to be afraid of the dark. Their home was small, their meals were scarce, and the first bite of winter was already in the air, a cold promise of the hardship to come. Their father, a gentle woodcutter with kind eyes and calloused hands, did his best to care for them. But the times were harsh, and his shoulders stooped with a weight heavier than any log he carried. One cold night, as the wind clawed and scraped at the window panes, the children heard something strange. It was a sound that seemed to weave itself between the howls of the wind-soft whispers drifting from the forest. This wasn't the sound of leaves or animals. This was something older and something aware. Gretel pressed her face to the cold glass, her breath fogging the pain. "Hansel," she whispered, her voice barely a sound. "The forest! It's calling us." Hansel, trying to sound much steadier than he felt, moved to her side. "Or warning us," he replied, his eyes fixed on the impenetrable wall of trees. Later that night, as the fire dwindled to glowing embers, their father told them they would all go into the forest the next morning. "To gather wood," he said, his voice flat. But Hansel, ever observant, saw the fear that lurked behind his father's tired eyes. He saw the way his hands trembled. Something was terribly wrong. So long after the house fell silent, long after the soft snores of his father and sister filled the small room, Hansel slipped outside into the chilling night air. The moon was a silver coin in the black sky. He bent down and began to fill his pockets with smooth, pale stones from the path, each one glowing faintly in the moonlight, as if holding a tiny spark of hope. "If the forest calls us in," he whispered to the stones, "I want to know the way out." At dawn, a weak, gray light filtered through the canopy as the three of them walked beneath the towering trees. The woods seemed to press in on them, the trees leaning closer with every step, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching down. As they went deeper, Hansel quietly, methodically dropped a single white stone behind him every few paces, leaving a shimmering, almost magical trail on the dark forest floor. Eventually, they reached a small, sun-dappled clearing. Their father turned to them. "Wait here," he said, his voice shaking just a little. "I'll go search for better firewood deeper in." His footsteps as he walked away faded far too quickly. So Hansel and Gretel waited and waited. The sun climbed higher, then began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The shadows grew long and twisted. And then, as dusk settled over the woods like a velvet blanket, the forest began whispering again. Gretel's hand found Hansel's, her grip tight. "Do you think he's coming back?" she asked, her voice small. Hansel swallowed the lump in his throat. "I don't know," he admitted honestly, "but we will. We will get back." Just then, a strange sound echoed through the trees. It wasn't their father. It wasn't the wind or a bird or any animal they recognized. It was a sound that made the hairs on their arms stand up. It was the beginning of an adventure they had never asked for, but one they would never, ever forget. Confident in his plan, Hansel turned to lead them back along his carefully laid path. But when they tried to follow the trail of stones back home, something impossible had happened. To find out what became of the trail, join us next time. The story continues in episode 2, The Path That Disappeared. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.